Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Serandos. I belong to an organization called Next Level Advisory Boards, started by Tony Davis. We get together, prior to the pandemic, we would get together every month. We get an expert speaker to come in, like Jeff today, and speak to us. And we have a Q&A, then we go into our individual boards. So we sit on each other's boards. And accountability at the board level is something that's a weakness of many small businesses, and Tony has put together programs to fix that. Since the pandemic, we get together now for a half a day, once a month. We get together for an hour every Friday morning. And today, Jeff Phiri from DHL is going to speak to us, give a presentation called Africa Like Never Before. Now, Jeff and I met late last year. He came and actually spoke to us then as well. And he was talking about Ethiopia and how unbelievably fantastic it is, and how well they're doing with their macroeconomic policy and the economic growth and their airlines. And it was really, really fantastic, because when I was in high school, Ethiopia was the poster child for famine. And now they've created this almost economic miracle, and the growth is going like this. So from there, I'd like to say thank you, Jeff, for joining us. I'd like to hand over to you.
Wow, Greg. Amazing introduction. And I remember also back in the days as I was growing up, when Ethiopia was actually a poster child, like you say, of famine. I remember We Are the World. Remember the song that was put together, and how countries came together in terms of solidarity and all doing efforts, relief efforts for the starving people of Ethiopia. But I can tell you what time does. Now, Ethiopia is one of the shining lights, not only of Africa, but indeed of the world. So it's a privilege to be asked to do a presentation and a conversation basically about Africa like never before. So my intervention today is all about our eyes should be on Africa, because incredible things are actually happening. Incredible things are happening within Africa, and Africa is fertile grounds for us to go and conquer it. There are more opportunities in Ethiopia, in Rwanda. I remember in about 2 weeks ago, we had an interesting chat with Rwanda Development Board, Louise, and the ambassador to South Africa, His Excellency Eugene. So everything is happening. There's lots of things. So I've just put together a presentation deck that shows what's happening in Africa. But the aim is, what is the call for action? What do we need to do as the Next Level Advisory Board? So I'm grateful for Tony. I'm grateful for the members as we learn all the time. So I'll share my screen, and just as we go on, Greg, let's have a conversation. Please stop me anytime and ask. And I've got a few stories that I'm going to share.
Very good.
So Greg, you introduced the topic for us this morning. It's Africa like never before. So why am I saying Africa like never before? One thing that is coming up is Africa in the past has been looked like a dark continent, like everything was bad, wars, famine, you name it, everything was bad. But we have come of age. Africa has come of age. There's lots and lots of opportunities. And this is where my narrative is going, that people take a pause, reflect, and take action. Go for it. Like us in the Next Advisory Board, we have unique skills. I'm saying, let's blend all these skills together. Let's repurpose Next Level, and let's go and conquer Africa. So, because Africa is like never before, things have changed. I've started with this quotation that is on this the head slide, which says, "What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly," by Richard Bach. It's all about life. Life is like that. It goes around cycles. We've now got a pandemic that is really disrupted life that we've always known. It has changed everything. And Africa is moved like that. We're seeing lots of resilience, Greg. We're seeing lots of solidarity within the countries. You know, our president, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, what he's been doing, he's actually the chair for Africa Union, and he's got special envoys that have been out raising funds. And you see in my slide that within a couple of months, they've done wonderful in terms of going to G20, the international financial institutions, Arab League, the EU, and they've raised so much money because they want to centralize procurement. Because right now, there's lots of disjointment within Africa. So they say, let's consolidate and buy as a group, as a union, and let's buy these ventilators, PPEs, and remove some elements of corruption. So this is what we're seeing, yeah? So life is a cycle. We're in a perfect storm right now, but we will overcome. It is well. This is my message. So the agenda, Greg, is very simple. It's, I just want to inform you, you said I'm an African expert. I've been working around Africa for a long time. I have offices here in Johannesburg and also in Addis, yeah? So when things are normal, I'm in between a shuttle 2 weeks in Addis, 2 weeks here. So I've gotten to know lots of countries within Africa, their nuances, their dreams, their challenges that they face and so forth. So, but I want us to inform the Next Level board, concretize the board in terms of what's happening within Africa, and inspire. And this is key, Greg. We must inspire to change the narrative and grab the opportunities. I must implore, there are so many opportunities. You also mentioned something, you know, last year, just before we met, I was in Ethiopia and I was staying at a hotel owned by Ethiopian Airlines. You know, they've branched, and I was going for breakfast in the morning. And I was staying on the 7th floor, but the lift had gone to the 8th floor to pick somebody because it took some time. And when it got to my floor and it opened up, and I saw a short Chinese man with 2 other big belly chaps. And I said, no, you guys can go, because I was a bit intimidated by this. Then the guy said, come join us, there's space. And I get in and I say, his face looks familiar, and he reaches his hand out and say, that time we're still greeting each other. It was still before COVID, as you know, Greg. And he says, hi, I'm Jack Ma. I was floored, Greg. I'm telling you. I said, what? I meet Jack Ma in Ethiopia in the lift? This is unbelievable. And we went together and we sat close to each other for breakfast. We was talking and so forth. And it was just inspiring just to meet him there. And later on in the day, I got to know why he was there. He actually donated $24 million to the ICT startup park that is happening in Ethiopia for the young entrepreneurs that are coming up. So he was meeting them to inspire them and saying, this is what's going to happen. But that is not the end of the story, Greg, because that very afternoon, I was going back to my room and we caught a lift with somebody that I recognized from the way he was dressed. Guess who that was? It was the second Jack on the same day, Jack Dorsey from Twitter. He also happened to be in Ethiopia and was staying at the Skylight Hotel. It was just unbelievable. And he was there and he made a commitment that in the summer of 2020, he had planned to actually relocate his business to Addis to launch, because there are lots of opportunities. It's a country with a population of around 110 million people. And it's forward-looking. It's got a young president. He's a mere 42 years old. He's a Nobel Prize laureate. He's doing wonderful things. He's opening up the economy. The IMF, the World Bank, ADB, they're all coming to assist Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is going through a rough patch. So on that day, it was a special day for me. I met the 2 Jacks. Unbelievable, but all of them linked to technology, all of them linked to the youth. And this is what my message is going to be talking about disruption within the COVID era and post-COVID era. We're talking about the youth, and we're talking about innovation. This is what is going to drive us to the next level. So this is what we're going to talk about. I'll introduce what's happening within Africa during and post-COVID. Some implications. For me, I always like to be practical. What are the implications of what is happening in Africa? What can we take from? What are the opportunities for us? What's in it for us? Then as we go on, questions and answers, yeah?
And Jeff, I can imagine the two Jacks were dressed quite differently. I can imagine Jack Ma in a suit and tie and his bodyguards, and Jack Dorsey kind of being by himself wearing jeans and bands and T-shirts and tattoos.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Greg. This is how they were actually dressed. You know, the trademark Jack Dorsey, how he dresses, just taking it easy. But Jack Ma was going to meet the Prime Minister and the President of Ethiopia that very morning. So he was dressed business-like. But yeah, it's like, Greg, you're actually there. That's how they were dressed. But these, I'm quite a big chap. But these bodyguards, they tried to intimidate. They were very intimidating when you looked at them. But Jack was easy. And one thing, I saw humility in him, because during breakfast, the staff and the guests of the hotel wanted to take selfies. He didn't mind. He was mingling with the people. I learned so much, just by observing. He was mingling and taking selfies. But the pride of me got the better of me. I didn't take any selfies. But I hope in future I'll be able to take a selfie. But it was just amazing.
Good.
So, just as an energizer, I want to ask the audience, there is a flag there in my slide. Which African country that is? I'll just give them a couple of seconds to tell us. Yeah, it's an interesting country. It's actually, the flag is actually similar to another country again in West Africa. Yeah. So, Greg, this is the flag of Senegal. That's Senegalese flag, and it's similar to the one in Ghana. You'll see later on in the presentation. The one in Ghana is actually got a black star. It's got a black star, but it's definitely similar to this. Yeah. So in my previous life, I was an economist. So I just want to share this quick slide in terms of scenarios. This was done by Chantel and Clem Sunta, just to say what's happening within the next 18 months, because that's when there's predictions of when we may have some vaccine and we can manage the pandemic. Yeah. So they came up with these 4 scenarios. Yeah. So where there's hard times, how we are in a recession right now. The recovery is going to take a U shape, a V shape, where it will fall, then rise immediately, or more like what we're observing currently, a W shape. Yeah. So this is what they're talking about. It's a tightrope. Companies and countries are becoming quite nationalistic. Yeah. There's no global view. Everyone is looking after themselves. So there's lots of protectionism. Yeah. This is what we are seeing. But also, could it be the new balls where everyone is asking for a rapid uptake of new technology, the 4th industrial revolution? So we're seeing all these things. Yeah, there's pulls in different directions. So this, just remember, because I just wanted to start at a high level, that globally, whatever is happening in Africa is being affected by whatever is happening globally, because we're part and parcel of the global economy. Yeah. So last week, the IMF released these economic outlook projections. As you can see, for sub-Saharan Africa, the contraction is going to be 3.2%. For Nigeria, 5.4%. And for South Africa, our country, 8%, which is massive. Yeah. So I've just taken the 2 massive countries in Africa and just see that we are in a storm. We are in a storm. We will overtake it, but we are in a storm. And if you look at the projections for IMF, I think they're quite conservative that next year they believe that South Africa is going to move from -8% to 3.5. It would be a hard ask if you ask me, Greg, but that's what the IMF is projecting. So we're in a perfect storm. It's that movement, it's that transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I know South Africa's GDP numbers came out last week and showed that the last quarter, the pandemic quarter, the economy fell by 1/3, 33%, which, I studied economics in university and in my master's, and I never thought I would see that unless like a nuclear bomb fell on the country, or there was a massive earthquake in California fell in the ocean. It's the only scenarios I could think of where we would have a 1/3 drop in GDP in just over the period of 3 months. It's incredible.
Yeah, really, really, Greg, you are absolutely spot on. That's what's happening with this pandemic. It has disrupted everything that we always knew in terms of economic theory and the economics. Yeah, this is exactly what's happening. Just the massive devastation. It's happening across the world. It's not only in South Africa. Just one quarter, a third. Yeah, that's incredible. How do we recover from that? That's when now it needs us to think outside the box. It needs us to have a united sense of purpose in terms of how do we get back to production. Yeah, it's all about productivity. We've got these concepts of now we're working from home. How do we do that? We're seeing countries going into a lockdown and easing and then going back as the cases go back. So there's lots of pivoting and so forth. And this is what my paper is all about, yeah? So as of the 2nd of July, this map just shows you where we stand within Africa in terms of lockdowns, curfews, and so forth. And you just see from the pie chart that only 2% of the African countries are actually on what we call normal operation. But most of them are actually, they've got curfews, they've got lockdowns, hard lockdowns, yeah, got partial lockdowns. So this is where we are. As a business person, you need to know this information because it's all linked, yeah? We're seeing the borders being closed. You know, the AU had come up with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which has now been delayed. It was supposed to be launched this year, but has now been delayed to early next year in 2021 because of what is happening. Because one of the tenets of that agreement was to open borders, was to remove visas so that business people could actually travel between South Africa and Rwanda without visas, between South Africa and Ghana or Senegal and the like. So now one of the reasons that has come up, we're supposed to be opening the economies, but we are closing the economies, yeah? We're closing the economies. That's what we're talking about. So Greg, let me just take you through this slide. It's a very fascinating slide with some interesting facts about what is happening in Africa. So we could have a long conversation about what is happening in Africa. It's quite interesting. So if one is an investor, you just look at this slide and you just be inspired to go and conquer Africa, yeah? In 2020, 22 countries are having national elections. You know, the past 4 weeks, 2 countries, they've just had elections and they've got new presidents running them, Malawi and Burundi. And some countries have postponed the elections because of the pandemic, but some countries are saying it's constitutional, we're going to go ahead. This continent, Greg, has got over 2,000 languages, yeah? Over 2,000 languages. So there's so much diversity within the economy. And, you know, people always talk about size, does matter. And in Africa, it does matter. So just to give you a perspective, if you take the whole of the USA, China, Japan, most of Europe and India can actually fit into our lovely African continent. So this is how huge it is, yeah? And you know, Greg, I'm passionate about the youth. There is a youth dividend within Africa. 70% of our population is actually under 30. Under 30. So as a business person, that is great news for one who is forward-looking. We've got a young population. They're digital savvy, so mobile penetrations are high. So you can actually do your digital strategy very well, actually, yeah? And so 20% of the world population is from the youth in Africa. We've got the fastest growing and the youngest population across the world. And they're saying by 2055, our youth population would have doubled, yeah? There's a huge youth dividend. And you see, later on I talk about some incredible innovations that are championed by the youth. And, you know, in our next meeting of the next level, Bigela is going to be talking about value add and what the youth and his incredible journey, what he's doing to empower our youth. So all this is actually linked, yeah? So now, look at how vast our continent is. Inflation, there are variances across. We've got -17, negative inflation in Eritrea. And one day, I hope I've given an opportunity to talk about some stuff out of Eritrea. And then a whooping 786% inflation. Can you fathom that, Greg? Yeah, and that's Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's got an inflation of 786%. It's unbelievable.
Incredible, yeah. This looks very much like the Wild West.
Yep, absolutely, it is.
In the American context, early 1800, except for the languages, a lot of young people, lots of ambition, and here we have 20% of the world population, but less than 2% of the world GDP.
True.
And we know about equilibriums, things do balance out over time, yes?
100%, Greg, yeah. So within the continent, because we don't want to sugarcoat, within the continent, we've got challenges. We've got 15 countries that are experiencing some civil unrest. There's actually a full-scale war going on right now in Mozambique with ISIS, and it is, there are so many countries involved, United Arab Emirates, Saudi, the USA, China. The AU is about to send troops also, but the northern part of Mozambique is very rich. Now there are some insurgents that came from Somalia, Tanzania, into Tanzania. So this is what is happening. So
yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible, Jeff. I mean, I live in Africa Light. We're broadcasting from Johannesburg. It's not much different from living in California. And a bordering country is having a war, and I don't even know about it. I probably shouldn't admit that.
No, but you're not the only one, Greg. There's so many people that are not aware. And if you look at the mainstream media, they're not covering much on the war that is happening in northern Mozambique. Yeah, they're not covering much. In fact, last week there was a massacre in one of the villages there up north, and it's said because it's innocent villagers that lost their lives. But this is what is happening. Yeah. So I have a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., yeah, and he says, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. I believe, Greg, this is a really, really powerful quote, and it's so timely, and it's linked to what is happening within this pandemic, yeah? We need to rise, because challenging times, they create opportunities. They are a harbinger for what we could do, what we can think, because they take us off our comfort zones and we start thinking broadly, we start looking at the big picture and say, what can we do? What can we do to conquer? What can we do to have solidarity, resilience? We know, when this pandemic got hyper, beginning of March, end of February, where we ran out of toilet rolls, toilet paper in many countries, and the stuff was stuck on ships and in warehouses in China. And people said, never again. We should bring manufacturing concerns closer to home, because supply chain disruptions can affect us, yeah? So the next war may not be over lead or water, it might be on toilet paper, yeah? This is what's happening. So Martin Luther actually captured this so well. It's actually so timely. It's linked to what is happening to us. So what do we do in these times of challenge, times of controversy, times of disruption all over? So I've picked up a few countries within Africa and just share what's happening. So I'll start with the AU, since this is the mother body for the continent. As we said during the intro, our president Ramaphosa is actually the current AU chair. The population within Africa, it's 1.2 billion, and 70% of those are the youth under 30. Yeah, he appointed in March 5 special envoys and they were tasked to follow up on pledges of over 53 billion US dollars, and these include our former finance minister Trevor Manuel, Strive Masiwa, Dr. Ngozi from Nigeria. She's the former finance minister for Nigeria, and also she worked for the IMF as the president for Africa. Donald Kaberuka, who was the president of the African Development Bank, and Jane Tiam, recently the managing director and CEO of Credit Suisse. Yeah. So these guys, within 2 months, they managed to raise, Greg, $30 billion because they are all connected. It's all about networks, and they called on them and said, guys, please help us, and so forth. So they got money from the G20, the EU, the Arab League, and other financial institutions, yeah, which is amazing because, like I say, they're trying to procure centrally, they're trying to change the supply chain, and it will see benefits. So they'll procure as AU, then send the stuff and distribute the stuff across countries. So it's all about coordinated procurement of ventilators, PPEs, and bring the prices down. They strengthen numbers, they strengthen rather than for them to go disjointed, they go as a block. They've seen some good lessons out of the EU. So let's start with one country, Kenya. They've got a population of 47 million. Some youngsters coming from the Silicon Valley, they linked up with locals in Nairobi and started a new video conferencing platform, which they launched, and it's being used extensively in schools while they're under lockdown, yeah? And this new video conferencing platform from Kenya is actually challenging Teams and what we're using today, Greg, Zoom, yeah? Within the East African community, what is called EAC, the growth is actually expected to be at 2.2%. And why? It's because mostly the diversification of the Kenyan economy, that's what it's driven. IMF actually projects that Kenya will grow despite the pandemic at 4.6% this year. Yeah, we've seen Microsoft data centers being established in Kenya and Nigeria. Microsoft actually invested $100 million, and this is mostly for education and research, and it bodes very well for us as we move into that space of work from home, study from home, study online, and they are bang on in terms of doing that, yeah? And this is quite strategic where they've gone to.
Yeah, Kenya is quite an interesting case. They're considered to be like the peace loving of the African nations, and they grow, and then something happens. They almost like self-destruct, and that problems.
That's true.
Or explosions, or but I worked with the Microsoft team there early last year, in the public project, and really sharp people, really ambitious. They really want the East African community to explode.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, yeah? So we move on to Rwanda, and they've got a small population, 12.9 million, so plus 18 million. We met the ambassador for Rwanda here 2 weeks ago, Greg, remember? And Louise from the Rwanda Development Board, yeah? They have done some amazing things. So Ethiopian Airlines has gone into a JV with China, and they're now manufacturing in Addis ventilators currently being tested before certification, and they'll be exporting them. And just see what they're doing in the chain. They've just done backward integration, so they will have they'll manufacture the ventilators and use their own aircraft to move them within Africa. They've got a wide network, yeah, so it's quite easy. They are using robots to minimize infections for the wealth of the health workers. They've started smart cities, which are being developed along the lines of Singapore and Dubai. That's what happening. So there's lots of opportunity there within the construction industry because it's booming in Rwanda, yeah? Mobile penetration is around 81%, and that is very high. So you could take your digital strategy to Rwanda. They are very open for business. You heard what Louise talked about, that once all the paperwork is done, it takes a mere 12 minutes and your company is registered. Yeah? It's easy, lots of things. So mobile penetration is very high. It's one of the highest in Africa. Let's look at Ghana. Look at their flag there, Greg.
Sorry, before we leave Rwanda, 9 years ago at the Gibbs Business School, I took an MBA elective on business development in Africa. And the head of Endeavor, which is an entrepreneurs organization at the time, came and spoke to us for half a day on their economic development policy and specifically around tourism and the biodiversity. But the incredible thing about Rwanda is in 1994, they had one of the worst civil wars in the last 100 years.
Yes.
With the mass genocide, and Don Cheadle did a movie about it, Hotel Rwanda. And since 1994, it's just it's a miracle. It's really
absolutely, really, really, truly, it's actually a miracle, and we can learn lots of lessons from Rwanda. That from the ashes of a genocide, if you've got focused leadership, if you work together as a team, you can achieve lots. So there's lots of public and private partnerships, and this is what is gone through. But boils down to leadership. President Kagame and his team, they've been very forceful. They're using the model that came out of Singapore, because they want to be known as the Singapore of Africa. Yeah. And it's a very nice anecdote that 9 years ago, when you're doing your MBA elective and you talked about Rwanda, and you still can see that projection, what's happening, the trajectory that they're going through. It's just amazing. And one of the things, Greg, and I'm quite sure you are very much aware, it's the use of women. So President Kagame has put in many organizations that are headed by women. The Rwanda Development Board is headed by Claire. Yeah, we met Louise, a sharp
yes.
young lady. Yeah, so most of the organizations within Rwanda actually are led by females, and they're doing an amazing job.
Yes, it's one of the things that Louise said. More than half the parliamentarians are women, and
yes.
And also in terms of safety and security, if people are free, freedom means they feel safe. And I think she said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kigali is the 6th safest place to walk around at night.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's exactly what she said. Yeah, just amazing. Yeah. So now let's move on to Ghana. It's a very interesting country. Ghana, again, strong leadership in President Nana. Yeah. This past week, he announced a 50% salary hike for all health workers and a 3 months tax holiday, given the great work that they're doing. They have taken skills from abroad, and they're manufacturing PPEs locally. They're testing a vaccine with a South Korean company. Look at their mobile penetration there, Greg, whooping 128%. Again, for digital strategy, these are the countries where to go. Because on average, in Ghana, people have got a minimum of 2 mobile phones. Yeah, so they use 2 different suppliers. So their mobile thing. So that's why they are so high. Again, there's lots of opportunities within that mobile penetration. Yeah, you see with Ethiopia, it's quite different. Yeah. Then let's move on to my next country, which is Ethiopia. Country that, remember, I work out of South Africa and also out of Ethiopia, and I talked about the two jacks. Yeah. So they've got a population of over 110 million. They are second in terms of population in Africa. The most populous nation being Nigeria, then followed by Ethiopia, then DR Congo. The national airline is an aggressive airline. You and I, Greg, we've talked about starting our own airline, and one of the inspiration is coming from Ethiopian Airlines. Yeah, they're still flying across the world, very profitable. They have very amazing balance sheet. Their cash flows are just amazing. They've repurposed 20 passenger aircraft, very cargo, because right now this is what is happening. It's just all about cargo, because we need to be moving raw materials, we need to be moving PPEs, we need to be finished products. Yeah, so they're doing well. The national airline is in talks with Mauritius, Air Mauritius, that is under business rescue. They want to buy it and get into some form of an arrangement. And again, you know, Mauritius leadership, they're doing well. They haven't had any active cases of COVID for over a month now. They're doing very well. So, and tourism is great. Yeah, tourism is happening all means, all right. Again, they've done a JV more or less like in Rwanda, the Chinese company. They'll be sending these to African countries. Yeah, they're the largest recipient of Chinese aid. They're the first country in Africa to have a metro rail. They are working on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or commonly known as GED. It will be the largest hydroelectric power station. There's some UN arbitration currently now because in the Blue Nile, Sudan and Egypt are up in arms. So, but I'm confident they will reach some form of agreement. Our President Ramaphosa is also involved there. A popular musician was actually gunned down, and it has led to death and violent uprising there in Ethiopia. It's a sad part. In fact, the internet was actually shut down by the government to stop people spreading rumors on social media, which is quite sad. The state telecoms, it's one of the best and largest. It's being privatized, so there's a huge opportunity for people to move in there and enter the exciting market within Ethiopia. So there's a privatization that Prime Minister Abiy is working on. DR Congo, they have a population of 90 million. There is a project there going on, the Grand Inga Dam, and it's going to supply 40,000 megawatts of electricity from Congo River. There's some problems with corruption and archaic regulations to an extent that, Greg, this week, one of the Spanish contractors pulled out because they were being asked lots of brown envelope stuff, lots of these pushbacks and so forth. They got very impatient and said, no, we need to pull out. So that's, but the good thing is that once this is operational, it will supply electricity to many countries because they will be exporting. So one of the things, as Africa is rising, we need to make sure that we've got adequate power, because we can't do lots of other things without power. We need that electric supply. There's massive agricultural potential, and they have the ability to feed the whole of Africa if they get their act together. Mobile penetration is quite low there because it's a very secured country. They have several lots, they have not really struggling, so it's at a paltry 31%. We've talked about Mauritius. It's a small island, 1.2 million people. There are no COVID cases for 7 weeks. Again, due to decisive leadership, they got a team. Their national carrier is under business rescue. And like I said previously, Ethiopian Airlines looking at buying them. Mobile penetration is one of the highest in Africa, 147%. So there's lots of things in the digital space that one can actually do in Mauritius. You know, they are also becoming a financial hub. They set up some lovely tax holidays for people that want to invest in the financial space. Let's look at our country.
Yeah, Mauritius is doing quite a bit on business incentives. So set up your business there and you have tax breaks. I was on a call yesterday with some innovation consultants, and we're talking about targeting Mauritius because there's also lots of South Africans there. Am I right?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. In fact, even in the malls, there's lots of South African malls. So you see a game, you see food lovers. So you feel like you are, when you are visiting Port Louis, you feel like you are actually in Johannesburg or Durban. Our teams have gone there as Africans, which is pleasing. Yeah. So let's look at South Africa, population of close to 58 million. Exciting news that we are on a joint UK-South Africa COVID vaccine test with VITS, and there's 2,000 volunteers because there's some issues around TB and HIV, so they're also testing those so that they get some information that will be quite key in the promulgation of a vaccine. Yeah, so it's exciting news that we were chosen. Yeah, again, relationships. The new development bank within BRICS gave given us a $1 billion loan to stimulate growth. You know, we've gone through this pandemic, and this is what is happening. The Treasury is talking to IMF for a bailout or a stimulus loan of 4.2 billion, which is quite needed. Our mobile penetration here is plus 80%. MTN has also launched and rolled out their 5G network. So it's there's lots of exciting stuff amidst this pandemic. You know, it's not all doom and gloom. That's the message. Yeah, it's Africa like never before. So here, I just want to show what's happening. This is a warehouse in Kenya, which uses AI. So, and it's driverless. Yeah, there's no person, and it just moves on its own, as you can see there. Yeah, it's in one of the warehouses and so forth. So this thing is coming to Africa. So it's starting in Kenya. I'm quite sure South Africa, Ghana, Senegal, Nigeria will be having these. What are the implications? And within this warehouse, they've taken CCTV technology and used it to enforce social distancing rules. Yeah, so they're doing that. They are becoming very innovative. It's pleasing. So this is just a collage of the robots that I was talking about in Rwanda. They got them out of China, and they used them to try and minimize infection of the health workers. As you can see, this is in one of the hospitals. This was shared by Louise. Okay, I have this slide, and Vic will be so excited about it. In terms, I titled it "The COVID Influencers." Yeah, the youth are at the core of what's happening, Greg. And I've got just a few examples in terms of what the youth are doing. They're not folding their hands and saying, there's this pandemic, and we're all going to die, and we're all getting infected. But they're saying, what can we do? What can we do to change the narrative? What can we do to impact society? And this is what, so I've just got a couple of examples with some pictures. In South Sudan, again, it's a fairly young country. It came out of Sudan. So they are still finding their feet, but there's a young chap by the name of Nelson Kwaje. He's 28. He actually designed a project or an initiative around tackling misinformation, lots of fake news and causing alarm and despondency. So he came up, he says, with the hashtag COVID-19 SS for South Sudan, or hashtag 211 check. So you can actually check the veracity of information, what is coming up, leveraging on online platforms and digital media to share accurate information. And because people make some wrong decisions based on fake news, yeah. So he's raising awareness on coronavirus prevention and protection. And he's actually been supported by WHO, the UN, the local government there in South Sudan. So well done to Nelson, doing a great work. In Cameroon, we've got a 26-year-old Christian Achaleke. He actually, from the pocket, from his own money and with a friend, and just passion and wanting to do, be impactful in society, they started producing bottles of disinfectant, which they were distributing to the public for free of charge. They were not charging anything. He just went to the website of WHO and got a recipe on how to make disinfectants, and he started a campaign of one person, one hand sanitizer, and it's working very well. Now he's got so many people that are actually coming to assist him, from the health professionals, the labs, the government, and they're increasing hygiene levels in that country. It's all about engagement. Again, we're seeing leadership from a young Christian working with his team. And you can see there on the right in the slide, that's him wearing that Cameroonian shirt, and he's got gloves, and he's in one of his outreach programs, yeah. And in home, we've got Love Youth Choir. You know, they came second last year in America's Got Talent. They're using the creatives, using entertainment to raise, again, awareness. It's important to have this awareness because this is a novel virus. So there is the creative talents to support the COVID-19 response. They collaborated with WHO and they've done a safety song, and it's been translated in various languages so that there is local appreciation, because sometimes there's language barriers. You saw, we talked in the interesting facts slide about the over 2,000 languages spoken in Africa. So sometimes the message has to be in a local language so that people can fully comprehend what is happening. Yeah? So the youth are actually at the fore of what is happening. I call them the COVID influencers. They play critical role. They're not folding their arms, and that's one of the messages for us in the next level. For us as entrepreneurs, for us as business people, we can't fold our arms. We must go and tackle Africa. We must go and conquer Africa. There are huge opportunities for us. So I've got some anecdotes that won't take much time, Greg, but I'll just quickly go through them, yeah, in terms of what's happening, and there's some keywords. It's going to affect our near-term growth and development prospects, but it's also proving how resilient we are. We're seeing what's happening in Kenya, what's happening in Senegal, in West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa. So there's lots of things happening around better regional integration. The former president of Burundi passed away, Corona. It was 2 weeks after the elections. Ethiopia, I talked about the 2 Jacks, yeah. He's definitely featured there in the ICT Startup Park. That's what they've got. I just want to spend just more time on what's happening in Zimbabwe. There's a company called the Rainbow Tourism Group, yeah. You know, with the lockdowns, the hotels are closed, but this company had a mobile app, and they just pivoted, and now they are doing online groceries and doing deliveries, and the revenue streams that are coming from that is just unbelievable in this era of lockdown. So they didn't fold their hands. They say, what could we do? What could we leverage from the smartphones? We've got this app. Let's take advantage of that. Yeah, Greg and I, you and I are very passionate about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, but sadly, due to this pandemic, it's just been pushed to next year, because it offers lots of opportunities for us as entrepreneurs going to conquer Africa. Yeah, they are removing non-tariff barriers that have stifled trade. Yeah, so this is what is happening.
Yeah, I definitely see a trend towards regionalization of manufacturing, and just bringing a lot of jobs back home, whether it's the U.S. or South Africa or other parts in Africa. But those free trade agreements have to be in place because each individual market is too small, with the possible exception of Nigeria. Yeah.
Very much so. Absolutely, Greg. Absolutely. That's it. Yeah. So what are some of the implications and opportunities for us at Next Level, for us as business people and entrepreneurs? Yeah. There's a young, growing population. Digital and mobile technology, it's there. E-commerce, lots of things are happening in e-commerce. I've got so many stories in Ethiopia and Kenya, selling online clothing, artifacts, and within the DHL space, Greg, you'd be interested to note that during this pandemic period and lockdowns, our e-commerce platform used to sell fashion and beauty. That was what was our #1 product. But now this has changed. We are seeing more people buying stuff for work from home and buying kitchen utensils and so forth. This is what is now thing. So fashion and beauty has been overtaken by stuff for devices, printers, and the likes. Yeah. In the education space, that's why Microsoft has invested $100 million for that. We've seen the video conferencing, kids learning from home and so forth. There's a quantum leap of in technology. We saw the video that I showed you, a warehouse in Kenya using AI, yeah, no driverless forklifts and so forth. Health and life sciences, you're talking about manufacturing moving regionally and locally, and the key for regional integration. And this is the space that lots of things are happening on the health and life sciences, tourism. Yeah, we've seen online. This morning I was actually on an online platform on a tour in Kenya. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful service industry. So all of these are driven by the young growing population. We're ready to go and tackle Africa and take it. You talked about regional integration. These are the ones, and you were bang on the money, Greg. Yeah, it's the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, SADC, East African Community, the use of the rail, COMESA, ECOWAS, which is West Africa. They've come up with their own currency. Yeah. Then around all this, what is important is to have a supportive regulatory environment. This is key. Without this, Greg, we are dreaming. We need that supportive regulatory environment. You see what's happening in Rwanda, for instance, what's happening in Ghana in terms of that. It's mission key. It's the foundation. We need that supportive regulatory environment. Then coming closer to home, what does it mean for us at Next Level Advisory Board? Yeah, I'm talking about collaboration, partnerships. We must collaborate, create unique skills across the table, so to speak. We must tap into our unique skills and go and conquer Africa. The opportunities abound, Greg. They are across the continent. We must think about our penetration strategy. I was reading about a South African concern that is that has moved into Tanzania, and they used hackathons in the universities in Dar es Salaam as a penetration strategy. That's what they had. We must get to know business associations. We must get to know the ambassadors for these different countries that are situated like Rwanda, Nigeria. They've got Shadi affairs that are responsible for business development. We must get to know them. Then they will open doors for us, and then we'll go to Nigeria. 200 million, population of 200 million. That's what we need to do. We must develop a cross strategy spanning these areas. Let's tackle the youth, the growing youth population. Regional integration is happening for us. What is our penetration strategy? How do we get to know these countries? How does Next Level tap onto my knowledge across Africa? Yeah. Let's utilize that and let's go. This is the time. We cannot fold our arms and hands and say, oh, there's COVID, this and that. We must change our mindsets and go for it. This is the appropriate time. Remember the quotation from Martin Luther King, yeah? This is the time to go for it. That's what we are saying, yeah?
And Warren Buffett has also said, be cautious when everybody else is being greedy, and be greedy when everybody else is being cautious. And this is
very true.
Nobody's being more cautious in the history of business than in 2020, hey?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, that's right. So there's some key takeaway words, and they are there on the screen. It's a VUCA environment. E-commerce is big. We must be decisive. Repurposing, digitization, diversity, collaboration. We must collaborate. Let's engage. Health is giving us. We must refocus, repurpose, relearn. So we must unlearn and relearn new things. This is the time to do that. Online, excellence, regulation, the youth, SMEs. So there's lots of things happening. And this slide, Greg, is just showing the resources, because I want the Next Level board to go deeper. And this is where I got all my information from. So it was really incredible as I was doing the research and learning. I'm very passionate about the African development story. In fact, on the contrary with what many people are thinking, that the pandemic is going to decimate Africa. Lots of things, lots of exciting things are happening. Opportunities are there for us to tackle.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm going to ask 3 questions in succession because there's a bit of a construction site going on next door. First one, it doesn't seem as if the COVID causes as much very ill people in death in Africa versus other parts of the country, world, including mine. So that's the first question, if you have any knowledge on that. 2, I believe a few years ago there was in the works, or there was an investment in a rail line to go between South Africa through Botswana to Namibia to unlock the landlocked countries. And the third question is Francophone Africa, Ghana and some of the rest of Cote d'Ivoire and the rest of Africa. How are they operationally and culturally different than, say, the Anglophone African countries or the former Portuguese colonies and those kinds of things?
Thank you for those exciting questions. Yeah, I'll try to answer all of them, Greg. Thank you very much. So let's start with the first question. Absolutely spot on. I have some information through various sources. So when we say Africa, and that was the narrative that when this pandemic hits Africa, it's going to decimate the continent. But we have learned, there are lessons learned that we took from the Zika virus and from the Ebola, and that is being implemented, yeah? And we locked down quite early, yeah? When we saw what was happening. We closed borders, we closed airports quite early. We had NGOs, so there was a relationship between the government and NGOs, so partnerships in terms of what do we do, how do we utilize and leverage on social workers to go and pass the knowledge. In Rwanda, for instance, they were using drone technology to announce, raise awareness on the COVID, people to stay at home. They took the army and they said the army is not there to beat up people, but the army is there to help the vulnerable in terms of supplying food for them. Because one of the things, lockdown, a hard lockdown is very tough in Africa, where people live from hand to mouth. So they have to leave home and go and fend for their families every day. And they get some money and they go and buy bread and some food for the day, and they do that. So if you tell them to go on a lockdown, they say, my friend, you're mad. How will my family survive? I need to be out in the streets and hustling. So this is what has happened. So we've learned from the previous pandemics, and we're utilizing that knowledge and the body of knowledge to tackle this. So it's not new. We're quite resilient. So that was on the first question. So remind me again, Greg, what was your next question?
Southern African rail.
Fantastic. So that project was actually put on hold. It was put on hold. In fact, the one that has taken ground at a frenetic pace has been in East Africa. So East Africa, they've done one from the port of Mombasa all the way to Ethiopia. Yeah. So the Djibouti one is working. The one to Uganda is actually working. Yeah. But it was planned before and it happened. It's financed by the Chinese. The one I was here, the one that was going to do South Africa, Botswana into Namibia, was supported by SADC, but it died because the countries were not united, and also we didn't have funding. Yeah. So nothing has happened. You know what's happening with PRASA. There's lots of allegations around corruption and so forth. So they've been inward looking, trying to fix all the problems that are happening. Yeah, that's what has happened. Yeah. So so it's actually on the shelves now. I hope once they get organized and they get funding, they will resuscitate it, because it's quite in need. It's really needed. Yeah. Then finally, if we look at the third question, which is very interesting, what's happening in the Francophone countries vis-a-vis the Anglophone countries and so forth. So West Africa is it's a melting pot. Lots of things are happening. For instance, Senegal have designed and developed in conjunction with the Louis Pasteur University in France. They've designed a rapid test which costs $1 US. Yeah, so they are testing massively, and they want to start now exporting that. So lots of things happening. Integration, they've always believed, because they got their independence quite a long time ago. They all want to integrate. They've come up with their own currency. They've forced the French parliament to change some laws, because all the countries were sending some money up to now to France. So they've changed that. So they are very strong on regional integration. They talk about solidarity, they talk about resilience all the time, and they are supporting each other, and they're holding each other to accountable. So democracy is still building up there, because there were lots of countries that had presidents that had been running the countries for 30 years, 40 years, but that is changing. So we're seeing more of them getting into elections. We're seeing more of them sending the youth to go and learn abroad, but bringing them and working them for the civil servants. So we're seeing civil service reform. And this is key, because corruption is one of the biggest cancers in that region. And they are now tackling that, because they've got a new work ethos, because they've got the young, highly educated youth that are coming and making demands. So if you see that region, it's got some heavyweights, Nigeria, Ghana, which are the Anglophone speaking, then Francophone speaking, Cameroon, they're doing wonders, Cote d'Ivoire, Greg, this is one of the countries that I urge you to visit. It is amazing, amazing. You get an opportunity once the borders are open, Cote d'Ivoire should be one of your stops.
Incredible, incredible. Thank you for that. I was on and maybe you were on the same webcast with Africa.com yesterday, and they had one of the speakers was the COO of TechCrunch. TechCrunch covers Silicon Valley venture capital industry, and he said one of the big changes was, you know, amongst venture capitalists and tech investors, they want to see you face to face. And they want that pitch deck, and they want lightning rounds, they want all this stuff face to face, but face to face isn't happening. And they actually even talked about, hey, maybe now it's an opportunity to invest in African startups. When I say startups, it's, you know, it could be a multi-million-dollar company now, but all tech companies are cash poor, right? They all need capital to grow. So what's your view on venture capital and Africa?
Yeah, so I listened to that podcast yesterday. I found it quite insightful and amazing. Yeah, it was really, really great. I'm actually waiting for the recording to be sent again, because I just want to listen to it again, because I had a bit of challenges with my network. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Very good. Jeff, thank you again. That was an amazing presentation. I think the viewers will get a lot out of it, because, you know, people from where I come from think of Africa as a country, as a continent, or country, not a continent. It's actually sub-Saharan Africa alone is what, 54 countries?
Yes, 100%.
And a lot of little tiny countries, but also some very, very big players like Nigeria, like Kenya, obviously South Africa, where we are broadcasting from. So for now, thank you again, Jeff. Now I'm going to hand over to Tony Davis to give his recap. Thanks.
Thank you very much.